Lowe's knows you work hard to take on the toughest jobs, so why not treat yourself with savings on the top pro tools that work as hard as you do? Head into Lowe's today for pro summer savings and get up to 30% off select tools and accessories. Lowe's is the home for great values on the most trusted brands like DeWalt, Bosch, and Metabo HPT. Shop in-store or on Lowes.com. Lowe's, the new home for pros. While supplies last, valid through 7/7, U.S. only.
Hello gamers and welcome to Budget Arcade, the free-to-play gaming podcast that helps you navigate through the growing realm of free-to-play games. My name is Jeff.
And hey, I'm Mark.
Hey Mark, how's it going?
I'm doing well.
So Mark has a new podcast out with friend of the show, Elliot. It's called Crossing Streams. You can find it in your podcast app. I think it's still waiting on Apple approval, but you should start to see that trickle out soon, right Mark?
It's fun to use the word trickle. Crossing streams. But yes, that's correct.
Way to sell your podcast.
Well, I wasn't expecting you to give me a shout out. But yeah, no, me and Elliot are chums now. We're talking all things streaming, video, movies, television, you name it. Find us on your favorite platform, whatever.
Really, just the enthusiasm behind it. Well, so this week, so Mark, March is known for what?
Madness.
It's known for madness. Specifically, the biggest basketball tournament of the year happens in the month of March. I want to say that I realize that a lot of people do not care about sports video games. And if that's the case, I apologize in advance, but Mark and I are going to talk about, as basketball fans, the history of basketball games and why we love them.
Yeah. No, we're gonna talk all about basketball this podcast, and Scott will enjoy this one for sure.
He loves sports. He loves it.
It's all he gets. He eats it breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, the video game thing is a ruse. He really just sits around and sports all the time. I will say this. As much as I like football and basketball, of me and Scott, Scott's the one that got a letter in high school.
Really?
Scott's the one who was competitive in high school and on a sports team.
What sports team was he on?
He was a wrestler.
Oh, okay. All right.
He wrestled a lot. And so he is a jock compared to me. So I don't want to hear anything from him.
the entire internet went, what?
Yeah. But, and he used to play basketball. We played basketball in front of Scott's house. There was a hoop in front of his house, and we met up there, and that's where he played basketball. So again, I don't want to hear it.
This is fantastic. Fantastic content. We have hit gold.
Okay, we're going to just cut it off here. We are... Anyway. Do you remember the first basketball game you played?
Yeah, it was NBA Jams.
I was going to say it had to be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure... Actually, I can tell you the first one I played was basketball on the Atari 2600.
Really?
It was bad, yeah. Well, it's the first one I remember playing. And then I played Double Dribble on the NES. That was a great game.
Double Dribble? I don't remember that game.
So Double Dribble was one... It is on the NES, and when you'd go into dunk, it would actually just do a cut scene of you dunking. It was awesome. It was a really great basketball game. But I think for a lot of people, while I'm not sure if the NBA Live series around, there were certainly other basketball games, but NBA Jam was the one I remember buying it on my Sega Genesis, having it on my hand, and I don't remember why I brought it to school, but I had it in middle school, and I brought it to school, and I was just so excited to get home and played it. I loved that you could put codes in and play as, at the time, President Bill Clinton. They had, I think Al Gore was in there, Hillary, I'm not sure about all of them.
Wait,
George Bush, George H.W. Bush.
You took the cartridge to school?
Yeah, I had the case and everything. Because unlike the SNES, the Sega Genesis had these really great hard plastic covers.
Yeah.
To put your game in. They were amazing, and I think I was just that in love with the game that I didn't want to, Who
was on the cover?
There was no one on the cover. It was now okay. I'm thinking specifically of Tournament Edition. And I don't think that the original had anyone. No, the original didn't have anyone on the cover either. It just had the arcade machine with the logo. And then Tournament Edition had like a metal basketball punching through a background. And it said in Tournament Edition on it,
I mean, now, Sega had all the money to give towards the graphic design, so it's fine.
Well, Sega, it was on Super Nintendo too.
Oh.
Sega nearly... Anyway, yeah. So I don't want to have to bother correcting that just because it's so flat out wrong. So I don't know if you know this, but I am a Seattle Supersonics fan.
Rest in peace.
And exactly. And as someone who was raised in Florida, that doesn't make any sense, right?
It makes zero sense.
But NBA Jam was the reason I am a fan. And it's because they had the green and gold jerseys, and I just liked the uniforms, and they had Sean Kemp and Gary Payton on the team, and Detlef Schrempf. And so when it came time to watch real sports, I was already familiar with the team, so it just made it a natural conversion for me.
So how sad were you when they lost the team?
Devastated. Devastated is a strong word. All right, it's still just... All right, let me say this. It's still sports, right? It's like, all right, fine. Like my team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were in the Super Bowl. Had they lost, it'd have been like, oh, that sucks. And I'd gone about my day. Because real life has real things and real consequences.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, sports really has no bearing on my happiness.
Sure. It took me a long time to get to that realization. I tell you what. As a Jacksonville Jaguar fanatic, growing up, I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, and I grew up this diehard Jaguar fan. It took me a long time to get to the point where I did not let the team's success affect my personal happiness.
Yeah. Well, and I remember when I was younger as a Sonics fan, when they were in the finals against the Chicago Bulls, I was not happy when they lost. Not really because it was like, oh, my team lost, but because I had to go to school and deal with all these bandwagoning Chicago Bulls fans who I promise you are not Chicago Bulls fans today. But
you called these people bandwagon Chicago Bears fans, or no, not Bears, Bulls fans.
They had no reason to be Bulls fans. and when Michael Jordan retired and then came back as a Wizard, they weren't Bulls fans anymore. They jumped over to the Lakers because Kobe was there.
Right.
Posers. So my team doesn't exist, and I'm still a diehard Sonics fan. But here's what I learned, okay? I learned that it's better to lose before the finals than it is to lose in the finals. Because if you lose in the finals, you'll never hear the end of it at school.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, you always remembered for losing the
top basketball. We should probably talk about video games, right?
Yeah. Okay.
What were you going to say?
No, I was just saying it's always better to lose before you get the championship because nobody ever remembers who lost in the Eastern Conference Finals. Everybody remembers that. The Utah Jazz could never beat the Chicago Bulls.
Right.
Anyways, but yeah. So when we're talking about basketball video games, and I mean, you start and you kind of almost start and end with NBA Jam, but I don't think that's necessarily true anymore.
You don't end so
right.
So we have two major NBA series now. Back when you and I were younger, we were kids or teenagers, there wasn't an EA or a 2K that had kind of, even though they were both in the game, they hadn't really wrapped up exclusive rights. So you had lots of options when it came to NBA games and NFL games. But the two big ones that have come out of it and survived, quote unquote, because NBA Live isn't around right now, is EA Sports' NBA Live series and, of course, the NBA 2K series.
Right. But I mean, is NBA Live? It's still a thing.
They did not release one this year. I don't know if they're going to release another one or not. They can't compete. They are not getting the sales they want because 2K has just outperformed them as a product,
right,
for so long. Like they don't know how to catch up.
No, fair.
But so I remember the 2D ones like Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. I didn't play those so much, but once I got a PlayStation and they had the actual like courts that looked like the courts in real life, I loved it. And then I bought the 3D one and I liked that you could see the names on the back of the jerseys. That blew me away. It blew me away when you trade someone to another team. They would have a jersey that said Sean Kemp on the back or whatever. And like, I just thought that was so cool that the game could do that.
You know, a little bit of fan trivia here. I had a pair of Sean Kemp sneakers when I think I was like 11, 12 years old.
I had the Hersey Hawkins, who was the small forward for the Sonics in their heyday. I had his shoes, the Fila muscle balls. Loved them.
I think the Sean Kemp shoes I had were Reebok. But
yeah, I believe he was Reebok.
Yeah, but they were so like crazy.
Remember the Shaq ones?
Yeah, no, all those
first Shaqs.
The sneakers back in the '90s were just crazy monstrous. It was fashion wise, it was insane. But anyways, so NBA Live was predominantly the NBA game to beat back when EA was, EA had branched out from solely Madden, and then they had, taken on the NBA realm, and 2K didn't get involved until the late 90s, early 2000s.
It was 99.
Yeah,
their first game was NFL 2K, which came out in 99, September 9th, 1999, and then NBA 2K, the first NBA 2K came out. I want to say 99, but maybe it was early 2000.
Yeah,
but I can't recall exactly. But I had a Dreamcast, okay? And so NBA Live was really kind of not all you had, but it was the only good one. Although there were a couple early ones called NBA in the Zone and NBA in the Zone 2 that I loved dearly. But NBA Live was kind of what you had. And then, Sony had NBA Showtime. They made their own game. And it was all right. I think it was called Showtime. Might have been Overtime, something like that. But then on the Dreamcast, because I bought one on launch, $99.99. And when NBA 2K came out, I rushed to it because NBA's always been my favorite, right? I had the NFL game and it was great and all. But when NBA 2K came out, it blew me away, man. It was so cool and it looked so good. And 2K, like out of the box with their first game, was already better than the competition.
Right.
And we've talked about my hatred of 2K, and it's only because I loved them so much.
It's like it's like a family squabble, when when your brother-in-law just kind of stabs you in the back. It's like, what?
Well, I should say that. So it's not really the case, though, because the original NBA 2K series was made by Sega.
Right.
And they didn't start getting terrible until they sold to Take-Two.
Yeah, but Take-Two took the series from just being merely okay to
they were never merely okay, my friend.
I disagree. I disagree.
2K3 was awesome. I love 2K3. 2K4 was pretty good. That was the first. Well, they had the ESPN license on 2K3. 2K4 was pretty good. Then I don't remember when they stopped. When Sega. I don't remember when they lost, because 2K11 to me is peak NBA 2K.
Yeah.
And then everything after that is when it really starts to depreciate.
So, like, when Take-Two purchased these, just pretty much gobbled up, the NBA license for video games. The
NBA license is not exclusive.
No, right, but they were in direct competition with EA and the NBA Live franchise, and they kind of steamrolled NBA Live, and
because they just made better games,
right?
Right. So the whole thing was that, well, and to be honest, back in that time, to me, EA didn't become the evil EA we know until 2004. When they bought the NFL license, okay, and effectively killed NFL 2K. Up until that point, they were making great games.
Yeah.
And they still made great games for a few more years after that. The Madden games were on the PS2 and Xbox. The Madden games are excellent back then. But once they got that NFL license and they stopped worrying about competition, that's where we got the piles of crap we got now. But what a lot of people, like some sports gaming YouTubers I've seen, they credit EA buying the NFL license with I think it's Vicarious Visions.
Yeah.
Or Crystal Dynamics, I think. Whoever makes the NBA games, the actual developer, were now able to concentrate all of their energy on it. And that's really when it kicked up to just being extremely polished. And like the present NBA 2K's presentation, even to this day, as much as I don't like the games, is unrivaled in sports gaming, period.
Yeah. No,
nobody tops it.
Well, and I agree that the NBA 2K games have every year that I've played, I do have NBA 2K21 on the PS5 and
yeah, I know.
But like that game is I didn't play NBA 2K20. So I can't speak on what that game took from the previous year or whatever, but NBA 2K21 seems very, very polished from the last NBA 2K game, which I believe was 19 that I played. And it just it seems like they took things and they improved on different aspects, and I saw a lot of complaints about 2K19 and what that game didn't do well. And I feel like 2K21 does those things well and actually dives deeper into the superstar mode, where it actually you can actually go through a story and all this. So I think that 2K has actually, I don't want to say revolutionized because that's too strong of a word, but they've severely improved on their product from just 2 years ago.
Yeah. So the whole problem is when we get into microtransactions, and I don't want to go down that road again. But 2K11 to me was essentially perfect.
Yeah.
That game was just had like an incredible soundtrack, as the 2K12. Really, you can go with 11 or 12 and be happy. But to me, I can't think of many series that make me more sad than the 2K series in the current state of it. Because it was my favorite game. Like, I bought it every year.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's just sort of this cash grab microtransaction. Now, granted, I haven't played one in several years, but that's for good reason. They've burnt me out on their product.
Well, a lot of people like you that feel that way about the 2K series, they also feel that way about the Madden series. And I think it's just a level of, what are we comfortable paying for? We're spending, base $60 on a brand new game, but is it really brand new? Are they
annually?
Right. It's just it's an annual offering, and they've tweaked some aspects of it, but largely it's just the same game. It's the same game you've played for the past 5 years.
That's definitely true with the recent Maddens, because I played those on Game Pass. They've added them to Game Pass, and the difference between 20 and 21 is really, I can't even tell you. There isn't any difference. They added like one new mode. But if you go back in time and look at Madden NFL 2003 and then look at the 2004 one with Michael Vick on the cover, that game is incredible. 2004. I brought it home and I was just like, they've done so, oh my gosh, like it blew my mind. I love that game. So I've unfortunately, and I know a lot of people listening may not like sports games, and really at this point you have no incentive to like them, because I think there's no competition. Even with the 2K series, which is not their fault. Unlike EA, 2K hasn't wrapped up the NBA license in an exclusivity deal. Someone could still come and license the NBA and make a game. The thing is that nobody dares do it just because the stranglehold that 2K has on the market is too great. Like, not even EA is able to get back into the game right now. But, we hold out hope that the NFL will be able to open that license up, and maybe we can get an NFL 2K or something. The NFL 2, what was the last NFL 2K? I think it was like 04. 05? Yeah. It came out in 2004, but it was 2K5.
Yeah.
And it was a masterpiece.
Right. And so, a lot of older gamers, they remember that game, and they remember how good that game was. And
it was $20 at launch. in a realm where games were $50 at launch.
And so they and I think I speak for a majority of gamers, where we yearn for this competition between different studios and different licensing agreements, is because we know that when you have competition, it breeds better games, and that has been true across all modes of entertainment, movies, television, you name it. It's competition is good for the consumer. And when 2K got started dabbling in the NBA realm, EA had the stranglehold for a block of like 4 or 5 years, and in my memories, I remember the NBA Live series being kind of stagnant. They weren't interested in improving on all aspects of the gameplay when EA was releasing NBA Live and it's in infancy or whatever. 2K gets involved, or Take-Two or whatever, and all of a sudden you have competition. So, these 2K games are released at the same time these NBA Live games are released, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm really digging this 2K game, is because they offer XYZ that's different from the NBA Live games. And for a number of years, that competition went back and forth. And these studios were driving each other to be better. And that was great for the consumers, because you had EA who was trying to improve on a game that didn't necessarily need to be improved upon, the gameplay at least. But they pushed the envelope and they said, okay, hey, we're going to improve on this because now we got these, we got this 2K franchise that's releasing yearly, and we got to make sure that consumers like our product more than theirs. And so that was just great for everybody. And now it is pretty solely 2K, and that's it. And much like it is EA with Madden. And that's not good for anybody, because 2K doesn't want to improve their basketball games, is because they have a stranglehold on it.
They don't need to,
right?
Because EA is not putting out a product that competes, right? So I can't blame 2K for that, really. I can blame them for not trying to improve their game, but it's not intentional. Okay, it is their fault that they don't have competition, because they cleaned to EA's clock by making just an incredible game for so many years. But it came out of doing the best job they could, as opposed to just paying to have exclusivity. So to bounce off of that, what I don't understand is why EA, with their NBA license, doesn't go back to the Street series. Did you ever play the NBA Street games?
I mean, I played it like
too.
the first couple NBA Streets.
Yeah, so there was NBA Street, which was good. Volume 2, which was bonkers. It was incredible. And then there was a bit of a break, and then they came out with Home Court, which was underrated. I think they had Street 3, which was okay, but then they came out with Home Court, which was this underrated one that I don't think a lot of people bought, and that's why they didn't keep making it. But I loved that game too. So it'd be cool for someone to go back and do an over-the-top basketball series. Although the new NBA Jams, have you played any of these? The ones that I say new, but they're maybe 5-6 years old now. Oh boy, they're good. So the newer NBA Jams, and you can find it on the Xbox Live Store. I don't know if it's still available to purchase, but you can find a disc copy for the 360. But the bottom half, like from the neck down, the players are polygons. And like NBA Jam was known for big head mode, right?
Right.
So in this, though, the heads are actually photos of the players from like headshot, like in-game like in real game headshots. And so like and they have the Sonics in there. So it was kind of my thing. I loved it. I could play as Sean Kemp, Gary Payton, and Detlef Shrimp. I mean, it was awesome. And when, Gary Payton had great animated faces. You dunk with Sean Kemp and his mouth would open up and it would just be that still image. What a great game. And it was made by EA. Just wonderful. Not a microtransaction to be found. It was so good. I don't understand how that's the same company.
Oh, I mean, when you strike gold, you kind of exploit it, and then that becomes way of life. But
yeah.
I feel like both EA and 2K, they've both hit on games that allows them to make money hand over fist year after year, and they don't have to do a whole lot when it comes to improvements year over year. And so until the consumer starts to, push back on the product, they're going to continue to release, pretty much the same game except with new names, every year. And I think much with like 2K, and now, with EA and the announcement of that EA is going to be making, NCAA football again.
Please be good.
Right.
Please don't blow this, EA. I want that game to be so. I want it to be good so bad. I love the NCAA football.
Right, and every sports football video game fan in existence wants that game to be exactly like they remember the NCAA football franchise to be. But like, so you have EA and you have 2K, and they're both kind of just tracking on the same level of, hey, we're releasing this annual game, and hey, maybe we made some minor tweaks to franchise mode, or maybe we made some minor tweaks to superstar mode, or whatever. But they're not game pushing improvements. And until we have until EA wants to put some actual money behind the NBA Live series again, they're not going to push 2K.
And they have to play the long game, right? So the reason NBA 2K got where they are is because they kept making great games. They didn't do it in 1 year. They didn't just drop a smash hit. What they did was, in that fateful 2K5 season, they released their games for $20 a piece, right? And that's $30 off of what EA was offering. And so that got people in the door. Yeah. And then they started charging regular price. But they kept making great games consistently for years. It took years for them to overtake the market. And for EA to get in the game, they need to not only best 2K, but they need to do it for years. And I don't know that they can do that, because they still have, even at its worst, 2K looks incredible. The graphics on the new 2K game are bananas for next gen.
Oh, yeah.
And
the PS5 looks like I'm playing against my next door neighbor.
It's incredible. Like the if you walk by and you don't know any better, it looks like someone's just watching the TV.
Yeah.
A game on TV. I've streamed on like a cell phone people playing NBA 2K, and it looked like on my phone I was just watching a real game. It's incredible. Like 2K still puts a lot of effort into those games, but they don't make the improvements that they used to. So I just want to kind of close with this. The reason I get fired up is because I want EA and 2K to make great basketball games, make great sports games. I want them to put something out that I want to buy, but they don't. And I refuse to buy it because I don't want to be part of the problem. I don't want to be the guy who complains about EA and 2K and then buys the game every year. I'm going to be the guy that complains about it and then doesn't buy it.
One of those. No, I think, because I have been someone just very recently that spent $70 on a 2K game, and the graphical improvements are one thing, but the improvements made year over year, they're just not there. And I think the consumer continues to spend the money on these games because they want to play with their favorite team. They want to play with the new players that are brought into the
rookies
team
and all that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's fine. But at some point 2K is going to get competition, or the consumer is going to grow tired of their product. And
I hope you're right.
One of the two is going to happen, and it may not happen, in the next 2-3 years.
I'm not so sure, man, because people complained harder about Madden this year than ever. Now, granted, we had a pandemic, but they sold more copies of Madden than they've ever sold before.
Right.
Now, I do blame a lot of that on people just being stuck at home and wanting something to play. But I don't know. You have a much more optimistic viewpoint on this than I do. I don't know that they are going to be challenged in a way to do it. And my hope is that someone on an independent level can make something great. And I know it's not going to be of the caliber of polish of a 2K game, but it could be the caliber of a 2K game from 2004,
right.
2005, like maybe. And they probably can't have they definitely can't have the NFL license, but they may not be able to get the NBA license. And to me, I don't really care too much about that if you have everything else.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, maybe I do have a more optimistic output on it, but I think 2K creates a good enough game to where it keeps people wanting to purchase year after year.
And I'll be honest, when I get my Series X, I'm going to be tempted by 2K because it looks incredible. Like, I want to put my new console through the paces. And of the games that are out there right now, it's the only one that I can actually see a market improvement from last gen.
Right.
But I'm going to be strong.
Fight the power.
Yeah. Well, maybe you guys can tell us what happened to basketball video games. How did we get here? You can reach out to us on Twitter and Instagram at Budget Arcade. You can go to our website, budgetarcade.com. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/Budget Arcade. And of course, we're with all the cool people on TikTok. Budget Arcade Podcast on TikTok. Our music is provided by Stimage. You can get his music at metroidmetal.com. Also, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Budget Arcade. Maybe Budget Arcade Podcast, but I think it's just Budget Arcade.
Who knows?
If you wanted to just chuck a buck at us, we'd be okay with that, right, Mark?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I promise I won't spend it on any games made by 2K. Unless it's GTA.
No microtransactions.
Yeah, no microtransactions at the very least. Well, thanks for listening and game on.
Imagineville Podcast Network.
Introducing the Lowe's List for Innovation. While our aisles are filled with innovative products, we've selected our favorites just for you. Like the exclusive Whirlpool washer with industry-first 2-in-1 removable agitator. We love this washer because you can customize any load. And with other smart features to streamline your laundry routine, this product is a must-have for families. Shop the full Lowe's list of top picks at Lowe's.com. Lowe's, home to any budget, home to any possibility. U.S. only.